All right, we're resuming the recorded proffer of Miss Maxwell. It is 2:16 on Thursday, July 24th. And the recording device is now on.
So when we stopped to take a break, we were talking about what has been publicly discussed as a black book or the Epstein list, and that's where we are. So you said you think you might know, or that you're aware of kind of the origin of this narrative.
Right. I just want to reiterate again, there is no list that I am aware of. I've never, at any time, at least during the period of time when I was present.
Okay.
The origin of this story, I believe, begins, or it has a beginning in 2009, and then it has a prequel, but we have to start in 2009. In 2009, there is Epstein is, I think, out of jail. And there are civil suits taking place. Many of these are coming out of a disgraced law firm, Rothstein, Rosenfeld and Adler. At that law firm is a lawyer who started there in May 2009, called Brad Edwards. In 2009, allegedly, the FBI gets a call in October of 2009 from Brad Edwards. He allegedly tells them that he has come across a piece of evidence that belongs to Epstein that contains a list of all of his clients and victims, underage girls, massage therapists, and and the men who are having sex with them. And Brad Edwards becomes a cooperating witness, confidential informant for them, and in a sting operation obtains the list from a former butler of Epstein's called Alfredo Rodriguez. And it becomes evidence in the civil suit. Alfredo Rodriguez is subsequently prosecuted for having an AK-47 or something weird, some guns or something, and goes to trial, and there's a criminal complaint that the FBI produce, and in that criminal complaint it says that Brad Edwards became aware of the list, that we'll call it the list for the purposes of this, after Alfredo Rodriguez's 2 depositions that are held in Epstein's civil suit. It's in the FBI's affidavit that the evidence was collected, and Brad Edwards became aware of it after the 2nd deposition. It's in the criminal complaint. The truth is different from what's in both the criminal complaint and in the FBI affidavit, and in Brad Edwards's own statements on the subject. The truth is that Alfredo Rodriguez was deposed twice, once in July and once in August. And in the July deposition, told Brad Edwards that he had handwritten notes or a journal or whatever in the deposition. And Brad Edwards replies, well, we're going to come back for a second deposition. And the second deposition takes place in August. What this means is that Brad Edwards had access to the list from sometime between July and August until when he actually called the FBI in October. So we're talking 6 months or so. Rothstein's firm was raided a few days after the list went into the FBI's hands, and subsequently Rothstein himself was prosecuted for RICO and I believe went to jail for 50 years. As part of that RICO case, he admitted to, on the record, and was, I don't know whether he was prosecuted for creating fake settlements and fake evidence in Epstein's case. In 2009, simultaneously whilst this was going on, my boyfriend, Ted Waite, was asked for $10 million to keep me out of any of Epstein's civil suits. Up until then, I had not been in any of Epstein's civil suits. In fact, I wasn't even sure, save for the first time I was mentioned was by I was basically nowhere. And then Ted was called for this $10 million and had been shown, his people had been shown evidence that included the list, the flight logs, and various other pieces of evidence. Now we're going to the prequel part of this story, so then it can tie to how this starts. In 2007, Epstein signs the non-prosecution agreement. He then fights the prosecution agreement or debates it through the DOJ or whatever happened there, and goes to the court in 2008 when it's accepted or whatever that is. Villafana was the lead prosecutor, in that case, and she, I think, was not happy with the outcome, and utilized at that time Brad Edwards to file the CVRA case. Now, what I have managed to understand from this is within the OPR itself there is evidence. There it says that Brad Edwards was the only lawyer that she was allowed to talk to, so I just want to preface that. The reason why I know that she went behind Acosta's back and everything else to do this is because Brad Edwards, in a podcast, made the revelation. What he says is that he'd never heard of the CVRA case before, and Villafana called him and told him to file it. The sole purpose of the CVRA was to overturn the non-prosecution agreement. So what I believe is that Villafana worked with Brad Edwards, who she had also he was the lawyer that she had selected as a pro bono lawyer for some of the victims. And he was also working for Rothstein's firm that was under RICO investigation for that entire time, creating fake evidence in Epstein's case. And she had just filed hidden, secret, using Edwards to overturn the NPA by filing this CBRA case that's sole purpose was to overturn it. And so when he approached her with the list, this was part of the effort to utilize and find new evidence to support the overturning either of the NPA and or of a new case against Epstein. Because Brad Edwards, or I don't know if it was Brad Edwards, because Rothstein's firm asked my then boyfriend for $10 million to kick me out of suits that I had no knowledge of at that time whatsoever, I now know that the base of this story was a blackmail of a billionaire, because Ted Waite was a multi-billionaire. He had everything. He was way, way more wealthy than Epstein, if anyone cares. And that is the reason why Ted and I broke up. Or was the basis of it.
So,
and that list was created, so then the masseuses that were on that list, I had never heard of some of them. I not even from the civil suits that had come up since I've seen it. And this is me now knowing what's in the list today. And I believe that, Alfredo Rodriguez, so there's a metamorphosis of this list. So the original statement that Brad Edwards makes that's in the documents contemporaneously is that it's pieces of paper that Alfredo has. It then morphs into something that Alfredo took, a book that Alfredo took from Epstein's computer, but there's no computer, I know, certainly not in 2005 when this was allegedly taken, that came out as a book. And then it morphed into, at the civil time of my civil cases, into a book that was taken from my computer. And then it morphed into the Southern District of New York as a combination list of mine and Epstein's. That is a metamorphosis through documents that you can trace.
So there, in your mind, well, from what you just described, there is a list. It's just manufactured. I mean, have you seen the list even fake? Like, do you know?
I haven't seen it, but
So
what
I was confused.
So I guess my thing is that what Brad Edwards says in all of these things is
Yeah.
in the paperwork and whatnot. And then, so all this story is basically controlled by 5 people. There's 4 alleged victims that speak about the list and the blackmail and the men and the sex and whatnot. And the lawyers, and now the prosecutors, sorry, the Southern District of New York for sure. But no one else. None of these stories carry from any of the 44 alleged original victims. They never ever say that they were farmed out to anybody.
But the list itself,
Yes.
where is it?
There is no list, but Brad Edwards said
So
that
that's
he
what I was a little
created
bit
the list.
confused about.
Sorry, he created a list. So in that book that Alfredo Rodriguez produced that became evidence, Exhibit 52 in my trial, it has markings all over it, circles and dots and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And Brad Edwards says that he got Alfredo Rodriguez to mark up the book of all the people who were involved. It includes Alan Dershowitz, for the record, who's marked. I don't remember what it does with Donald Trump. I don't know. You'd have to look. I don't have it. But I believe. So what he did, he marked up. I don't know who. Somebody marked up that book of names, and I think all the names of the people that they went for were originally selected between 2 sources. One was this alleged book of names, and one was also from the telephone logs that were collected from the house in Palm Beach. And just to finish it off, there is a note. I have some papers for you if you wanted them, where Brad Edwards says that he has a list of 25 men that he got money off.
So, okay, so the list that everybody, the black book, the list, what you're saying is that your Exhibit 52 from your trial, which is like more of an address book or Rolodex type thing, that Mr. Rodriguez, Alfredo Rodriguez, your understanding is that somewhere along the way he went through and kind of marked that list to
I don't know where that book actually comes from.
Okay.
I don't know what that book is. That book is some type of a compilation, but what it is it's just pieces of paper with type. So if you could have made a list. I could put, oh, I wouldn't be so rude,
But you're referring to something that's been public for a long. I mean, if we're thinking about the same thing, you're talking about you're right. It's like a bunch of different types of paper, or whatever. I only have a copy of it, but with big parts of it redacted publicly because
Yes.
people's addresses and
yes,
whatnot.
that's what
on
I'm
it.
talking about.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
oh, perfect. Yes. So you will find.
We're looking at Exhibit 52 now.
Okay, so you're looking at Exhibit 52. So the one they produced, the Southern District of New York actually produced a book for me to see it as evidence, the actual thing it was. And it has marks, it has tabs, it has things, it has names I've never seen. It had like that list of that list was basically the names that they choose to produce at trial. Now, in Rothstein Adler's firm, I also have some documents where Rothstein, his original scheme at Rothstein Adler was to place prostitutes. He had a bar, a dancey bar, where he had girls, and I believe he would use them and put them as fake secretaries in people's offices, and then she might touch him or he might touch her or something, and boom, he got $25,000 for that. And those girls, and I'm not saying that those are the girls that came in Epstein's case necessarily, but
But again, so we're separating the evidence that came in at your trial and what you just talked about with Brad Edwards and Mr. Rodriguez. During the time that you were with Mr. Epstein, and even in the 2000s when you were around less frequently, you never observed or you never saw any sort of list or black book or a list of individuals who linked to certain masseuses or
Absolutely
anything
no.
like that.
Absolutely no. There is no list. There is no. I'm not aware of any blackmail. I never heard that. I never saw it, and I never imagined it.